Welcome to the channel. This is a 2001 Honda CR-V. It's lifted on an HRG 2-inch Ultimate lift kit, which means it has a 1-inch spacer in the front, a 2-inch spacer in the back, it has a 1-inch subframe drop in the back, and it has adjustable rear camber arms and adjustable front upper ball joints to get the camber right. I've been running this setup for thousands of miles with the Toyo open country tires and Honda S2000 wheels, and it's great. It goes over all the things, but on the freeway the rear end is a little floaty, especially when you're turning at high speeds. It just doesn't give great confidence. So I have this pile of tax write-offs to resolve that. We've got from Trueheart some rear trailing arm bushings that should be stiffer and have less sway there. Not only do I have the factory ones, but they're the original factory ones and they're shot. I also have Trueheart adjustable rear toe links. Two different alignment shops have told me they cannot get the toe into spec. That should solve that. And this giant box is a 19mm rear sway bar from Jegs that we'll install too. And then sway bar end links for the front and back from Moog. In this video, we'll install the sway bar and the end links because they're attached to each other, so you might as well do them at the same time. And the next video, we'll do the trailing arm bushings and the trailing arm toe links because they're attached to each other, basically, so you might as well do them at the same time. So I have unboxed the sway bar. I think I called it Jegs earlier. That's not accurate. I bought it from Jegs, but the actual manufacturer is Adco. And I'm hoping that this is just as good as the Ultra Racing. It has the same spec, same size. It just costs $150 less than the Ultra Racing. So hopefully it's just as good. It comes with brackets and new bushings. It comes with 2 bolts, exactly 2. So clearly they want me to reuse my original hardware. And it comes with these, which I'm not quite sure how these are used. It might be obvious underneath. This is 19mm. I just measured the factory one. It's 14mm. So that's where the whole point of this. The sway bar connects the left and right suspension so that when one side compresses, it forces the other side to compress not an equal, but a proportionate amount. And that makes it less tippy. By not allowing you to just completely want to fall over. So we're going to pull out the old one and compare and see how we're going to install the new one. Sway bar. You do not need to jack up the car, and in fact you shouldn't jack up the car to remove it. If you jacked it up, this suspension is going to hang, and that will actually put weight on this, and that will make it harder. So all we have to do is remove these 2 bolts and drop this bracket on each side, but we also need to disconnect it from these end links, which I have new ones, but these ones actually look in probably pretty good shape, but we'll start with that. That's probably a 12. That's a 12, but first I want to take this off, which is not a 12. It's a 14. Oh, that's gonna suck. Okay, I thought that was gonna suck. I thought it was gonna... When I started turning this with just a wrench, the back was turning too, but when I put an impact on it, it broke free. So we are golden right there with no issues. So I'll just do the same on the other side. Unexpected masterstroke of genius. I realized that although I cannot remove this end link here easily with the impact because of the exhaust, I can remove the other end here and then deal with it outside of the car. So this is now free, which means the only thing holding it on is those 2 brackets. One. Don't fall on my head. And Where's the other one? Of course, the exhaust is in the way of that too. I need an extension. You can do all this with hand tools. It really depends on the condition of your sway bar end links. I have had to cut them off with sawzalls or cutting wheels when they're really rusty. These ones are not bad. So now we have the side by side. Here is the factory 14 millimeter, very thin, very light. Here is the ADCO 19 millimeter, very thick, very heavy. Now I also understand what these were for. So these are the bushings for the new bar. And here's the bushings and brackets for the old bar. Obviously this is way bigger. So this would never line up to those factory mounting points, right? That's where this comes in. So these bolt to the bottom on the factory mounting points, and then this goes on there. Now it only came with 2 bolts and a bunch of washers and 2 nuts. That's great because they said to reuse these. However, these are very short. This could go in here and go into the chassis. This one going in there. And then, of course, when you add this bracket, if I were to do that, I'm only going to get 1 thread into the chassis, which is not cool at all. So you may be thinking, well, maybe they want you to use this long one there. Except for that this is not the same thread pitch. I don't even think this is metric. So we're going to use these. I just happen to have some nice stainless steel flanged M8s that are longer. So I'm going to use my own M8s, which honestly is still not very much, but it's more than the other ones. I will use their bolt here because this kind of just hangs out in space. I'll probably flip it over like that. And we'll put it in that way. Now that's the bars. For the end links, so here's the end links that are in there. They are not factory. These are like AutoZone from a couple years ago when I did the lift. But we're going to replace them, upgrade them to these Moog ones. The Moog ones are better for a couple reasons. One, they have this big square back, which you can grab to tighten this, which means you can set a specific torque setting. Technically you can do that with this one too, but if you see that's very small and it's hard to reach because you need a very thin wrench to do that. And there goes another motorcycle. So, and also this has a Zerk fitting, so you can re-grease it, and it's a lot thicker, beefier, right? So these, we'll get rid of those, we'll put these in. Awesome. Typically when you install sway bar end links, you would be doing this under a car. But today we have the luxury of installing sway bar end links and a sway bar at the same time. So I get to torque this up here on the bench. This has a very small nut on the back. It's not really a nut, it's square. So using this thin wrench, we can have one person hold that while we torque this. But this is not the size that I thought it was, because it's not the same size as the other ones. It's 15, not 14. Oh God. Oh my God. You hold the back and you torque this to 26 foot-pounds, except for the torque wrench turned off. Right there. And we'll flip this around. There you go. And you don't have to worry about the angles because this is still completely mobile at this point. That's cool. Okay, we're back under here. These adapter plates could go with that extra tab facing the back or the front. And of course there's no instructions. However, when I lift up the bar, if you slid this towards the front, then it would hit here. So it can't go that way. So I'm going to do it the other way. And then as far as this way or this way, it can only go one way because there's a recess here. Well, that doesn't line up. Oh, that sucks. Why is it like that? The holes on this are not beautiful. So, and especially this back one is kind of sloppy. So I have to bore this out because it doesn't fit. I wonder if the other one fits. Maybe, but I'm just gonna hit both of these sloppy holes with a drill. To put these in my vise and put cutting oil and drill them with the hand drill Milwaukee M18 with 8% cobalt bits, a 10 millimeter hole. But now it fits. So that's minus points for ADCO, because come on, I shouldn't have to do that. But this one is up here now. This is up here now. This one I only threaded to align it. I'll torque that down, then this one's gonna come out because the bracket's gotta go on there. All right, now we have a mounting base. So we have to thread this kind of around, feed it through the exhaust. I can let it go because it's resting on the dynamic differential dampener. That's what that's called. We'll find more bolts, but we have the bar mounted. Now, this is what they included, which I don't like because it is 1/2 inch standard instead of metric. And this is a 25 millimeter M8 that they did not include and also does not come on your car already, so I had to find that. And then under here is an M8 that's 20 millimeters long, which also you have to find. So not impressed with what ADCO provided here. I can't recommend that. The bar itself seems very well made. And then I have these Moog end links that are not torqued. Even though I had torqued them earlier, I needed to untorque them to get this on here loose. Now I will torque them, but it will be easy because of that nice square bit on the back. Okay, perfect. My son's gonna jump on the bumper while I make sure that no parts of the suspension touch each other that aren't supposed to touch each other. Hit it. Oh yeah. So what we don't want to see is the shock hit the sway bar end link, which it doesn't do. And then we don't want to see the sway bar end link hit the dynamic differential, which dampener, which it doesn't do, or hit the bottom of the car. So we've got the gap here. I can put my finger, although you probably shouldn't because that could have pinched me. Everything is torqued and nothing is interacting with it in a negative way. So now we can go for a test drive. Now I am driving around and mostly I'm just making sure that there's nothing weird or off. This is not like a comprehensive test drive that this fixed the rear end floatiness. We still have rear trailing arm bushings that we need, and we know for a fact that our rear toe is not right. So that's what we have the toe links, adjustable toe links for. But right now this feels fine. My overall impression of the ADCO from Jegs is that the bar is awesome, but the hardware included sucks. So if you order that, make sure you get your own M8 by 20s and M8 by 25s ahead of time, and be prepared to drill out the holes. If you want to spend more money, the only other option I'm aware of for a 19 millimeter sway bar for a first gen CRV is the Ultra Racing. I can't say, I don't have that, so I don't know what kind of hardware it comes with, but I have had good experience with Ultra Racing in the past, and I have not had to modify any parts. So take that how you will. So stay tuned till next time, where we will continue stiffening up the rear end with the other parts and from True Heart, and of course we will need to get an alignment. Then we will do the true road highway test. Did I solve my floaty rear end test? Later.